First of all, I will state by what criteria the soul can be discovered, then by what means it is manifested. After this, whether it has a definite nature or whether its nature is indefinite. This will follow, whether it is simple or complex. Then, whether it is mortal or immortal. Finally, whether it is endowed with reason or irrational. For all these questions, for the most part, would be sought in reasoning about the soul, as capable of characterizing its personal property and being the most suitable for investigation. For proofs of the assertion of what is sought, we will use general concepts, by which what is in hand will be clearly certified. For the sake of brevity and for the sake of usefulness, we will use only those arguments that are necessary for the sought subject, which is now to be demonstrated. In order that the understanding may be clear and easy, we will also introduce a certain readiness to meet opposing arguments. So let us begin the speech. What is the rational criterion of the soul on the basis of which the soul is known? Everything that exists is either known by feeling or perceived by the understanding of the mind. And that which falls under the realm of the senses has a proof expressed in the very sensation of the object, because together with the perception, the idea of the posited object is also produced in us. But that which is perceived by the understanding of the mind is not known in itself, but on the basis of the opposite too. Thus, the soul, being unknowable to the senses, is known not in itself, but precisely from the manifestations of itself. Is there a soul? When our body has motion, it is moved either from without or from within. And that it has its motion not from without is evident from this, that it does not perform the motion proper to it, either by being pushed or dragged, as, for example, inanimate objects are moved. And again, when it is moved from within, it is not moved in the order observed in nature, as, for example, fire. For it does not cease to be in motion as long as it remains fire. But a dead body, although it is a body, cannot perform motion. If, therefore, the body receives its motion neither from without, as inanimate objects are moved nor in the order of natural laws, as, for example, fire, it is evident that it is moved by the soul, which also gives it life. Therefore, if the soul is the giver of life to our body, it is clear that the soul itself is known by the opposite. Does the soul have a nature? That it has its own essence is evident from the following. First, it must naturally be said what is the definition of essence in relation to it. Then, what is this nature? That being one and the same in number, it is capable of perceiving states that are contrary to one another. That the soul, which does not depart from its own nature, accepts opposite states, is clear from all points of view. We can see in it righteousness and unrighteousness, courage and fear, moderation and intemperance, states which are opposite to one another. Therefore, if the personal property of a being is expressed in the ability to accept states opposite to one another, then it is clear that the soul also accepts this definition. Therefore, the soul is a determinate being. Then, if the body is a being, then it is necessary that the soul also is a being. For it is impossible that what is made alive should have a being, and that what gives life should not have a being. Would that which is nothing and has no being of its own be the cause of the being of that which has its being? Or would some madman call that which has life on the basis of another, and without which it cannot exist, the cause of that other from which it has life? Is the soul disembodied? That the soul is in the body has been shown above. Now it is necessary to inquire how it is in the body, and if it is attached to it, as, for example, a pebble to a pebble, is not the soul also the body? Then it cannot be said that the whole body is animate, because, in that case, The soul is attached to the body only as to some part of it. But if it is mixed and fused with it, then the soul must be called many-parted, and not simple, which is rejected by the concept of soul. For that which is many-parted can also be divisible. That which can be divisible is also soluble. That which can be soluble is composed of parts. That which is composed of parts has 3 dimensions. That which has 3 dimensions is the body. A body applied to a body causes discomfort. But the soul, being in the body, does not cause discomfort, but rather gives it life. So it follows from this that the soul is not a body, but is incorporeal. Again, if the soul is a body, does it move from within or from without? No, it does not move from without because it is not pushed or pulled like inanimate objects. Nor does it move from within, as animate beings move, because it would be absurd to speak of the soul of the soul. It is not a body, so the soul is incorporeal. And again, is the soul a body, and has sensory qualities and is nourished? No, it does not eat. And if it eats, then it does not eat bodily, as the body eats. It eats incorporeally, because it eats word and thought for. So it has no sensible qualities, for with the eyes, one cannot see either righteousness or courage, or anything of that sort, for such are the qualities of the soul. It is not a body, so it is incorporeal. Is the soul simple? That the soul is simple is evident chiefly from the fact that it has been shown to be incorporeal. If it is not a body because the whole body is composed, and what is combined is composed of parts, and it, being incorporeal, is not multipart then, consequently, it is simple, and not composed of parts. Is the soul immortal? I hold that what is simple by its essence adds to itself a companion, immortality. And how do we arrive at this conclusion? Listen, nothing that exists is corruptible by itself, because in the beginning it was not so. For what is corruptible is brought into corruption by the action of something contrary to it. Therefore, everything corruptible is soluble. What is soluble is compound. What is compound is many-parted. What is compounded of parts is clearly compounded of different parts. What is different is not identical. Therefore, the soul, being simple and not compounded of different parts, is uncompounded and insoluble, and therefore it is incorruptible and immortal. And again, that which is moved by something else does not have its vital principle in itself, but receives it from the mover, and it remains so long as it has it from that active power. But as soon as the active principle ceases, it too is destroyed. On the other hand, that which is not moved by anything but has the power of movement from itself, like the soul, which is self-moving, in no case ceases to be, because with that which is self-moving there goes the power of being always moving 5. That which is always moving is incessant. That which does not cease is infinite, and the infinite is incorruptible, and the incorruptible is immortal. Therefore, if the soul is self-moving, as was shown above, then it is incorruptible according to the above argument. And further, if everything corruptible is brought into corruption by its own evil, then that which is not brought into corruption by its own evil is incorruptible. Since evil is that which opposes good, it is also its destroyer. Just as the body has no other evils than suffering, illness, and death, so its virtues are beauty, life, health, and a prosperous state. But for the soul, fear, intemperance, envy, and the like are bad things, and yet all this does not destroy its life or disturb its movement, which means that it is immortal. Is the soul gifted with reason? That our soul is rational, everyone will prove from many things, and first of all from the fact that the arts 6 that are useful in life, it itself invented. For it was not just like that, or as someone would say by chance, that the arts were formed, since no one can say that they are inactive and useless for life. So if the arts contribute to what is useful in life, then what brings benefit evokes praise for itself. And what evokes praise is clearly someone's work. The arts are an invention of the soul, so our soul is rational. It is also evident from the fact that our senses are not in themselves sufficient for the perception of objects that our soul is rational. For in order to know existing things, we are not satisfied with the perception of sense alone, but we subject the impressions we receive to the activity of the mind, reflecting on them, since we do not wish to be deceived concerning them. For example, are things different in their nature the same in form or similar in color? Feeling, without the help of reason, is powerless to determine this. Feeling can only give us a single idea, a single picture. But to weigh, evaluate, and compare this belongs to the examination carried out by the soul. And that this is really the case we see from the fact that those things whose existence, form, color, etc., the senses communicate to the mind, which is the limit of their function, then the soul knows how to use for our benefit, make a choice, and transform into what we like. Therefore, if existing things are perceived by the senses, which, without the participation of reason, can give a false idea of the object 8, then the mind 9 will be that which produces a difference between everything, and it is also the one who is conscious of everything in truth. The mind is the thinking part of the soul, so the soul is endowed with reason. It is rational. Again, we do not bring into action anything that we have not first outlined in ourselves. This is nothing other than the dignity of the soul, because the mind is not given to it from without, as is the knowledge of existing things, but it itself, as it were by its own powers of thought, governs existing things. Therefore, a certain plan is first outlined in it, and thus brought into action. The dignity of the soul consists in doing everything with reason, because it has been proven that it also distinguishes sensations delivered by the senses. Thus, the soul is rational 10. What is the soul? An incorporeal, intelligent being that inhabits a body and is the cause of life. What is mind nous? The purest and most intelligent part of the soul, by which things are contemplated, thought about, and which discusses what has previously been perceived through the senses and its own conclusions. What is phrenes, as if mind of the soul? 11. The powers of the soul, which, through reason and consistency, bring about, to some extent, the harmony of things. What is skill? Tropos 12. A habit in the soul, rooted as a result of experience. What is feeling aesthesis? The organ of the soul, the ability to perceive what is outside through the senses. What is spirit? Pneuma 13. A faceless being that leads every movement, the end of the work of Blessed Maximus the monk on the soul. 14.